You're listening to the Zone Coverage Football Show, where opinions, passion, and pride are always on the line. Live from Tees Towers, here's your host, Mark Tees.
Hello and welcome along to the Zone Coverage Football Show. I'm your host, Mark Tees, and I'll be with you for the next 45 minutes as we delve into the wonderful world of pigskin. And by pigskin, I mean the NFL, not those rather addictive, teeth-destroying snacks from behind the bar, which I feel possessed more of a Moorish power than the tube of Pringles. Anyway, a nervous start to the show. While you digest that, make the mental note, pork scratchings while I'm in the pub, we'll move swiftly on. And on what to expect on the show, ways to listen live, and what I've got coming up basically. So here we go. You can tune into the show live, which hopefully you're doing right now. You can do that via a variety of apps. We got the TuneIn app, and there was a big demand for that. People were screaming at me. We also have the Spreaker app, all downloaded for free. Just go to the, the markets now. Android, there's another one. It escapes me at this moment in time. iPhone and Windows. There we go. Right then, so that's live out of the way. Gonna listen live? Well, there's a few things you got to do here. Firstly, hand in your man card. Yes, you heard me right. Hand in your man card. No going for Sunday dinners with the wife or sitting round just shopping. You got Saturday for that. Sunday's football day. Right, you've been conned, whatever. I'll let you off this once. Download us as a podcast. Yeah, that's right. Every base is covered here. You'll find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and I believe you can listen back on TuneIn and Spreaker as well. That aside, we are also live on the website, and you can listen back on the website, which is www.zonecouragefootballshow.com. I've got a feeling I'm going to regret making the show title so long, so I'm going to have to repeat that a million times. So just bear with me for these first few minutes as we battle on through, and trust me, we will get to some football in a moment. Right then, Twitter, Zone Coverage FS, and Facebook, we do have a Facebook page, so go over there and like that. Right then, what do we have here? Right, I'll give you a little info on the show and why I've started it. As you guys already know by now, you're in the same boat as me. In the UK, huge NFL fan, love it, can't get enough. All these sort of radio shows and that, they're on at what? Midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. You know what it's like. What you're doing on your phone, 1 a.m, sneaking round, who you're ringing, what's this long distance number on the phone bill, and so on and so on. With that in mind, I thought, right, we need an outlet. I'm not the biggest expert on everything. I'm not going to be breaking down coverages. I'm not going to be telling you who's coming off the edge quicker, the schemes that people are doing, the blocking zones, and all your guard info, all that. I'm just a fan like you guys. I'm offering up a platform. So just come on and have your say. There's something that's annoying you about the NFL, something you want to praise, anything like that. Just come on, talk to me. Talk about your favourite team. Talk about anything NFL related. You can even talk if you play at an amateur level. I played at an amateur level last season. Unfortunately, you're going to probably hear this sob story a few times. I tore my ACL and MCL in February this year, so I'm still awaiting, what's the word now? Surgery for that. So I'll maybe offer some insight on that if that's of any help. But yeah, that's the sort of the format set out for the show. There's no you haven't got to mind your P's and Q's on here. Just come on, have a rant, have a praise. If you think the show's rubbish, don't be shy, hit us up. Zone Coverage FS on Twitter, Facebook, and all these live apps. Just let us know. The more feedback you give me, the better show I can produce. I'm open to ideas, anything. Right then, it's 5 minutes of nonsense. If you have survived that, big pat on the back, round of applause to yourself. I typed up a script, as you can probably tell by the few hesitations along the way. That's gone way out the window at this point. What I do have for you, right, some news on that I'm going to go through around the league now. It was the Hall of Fame last night, and Friday night I believe they were inducted in. We've got the Hall of Fame game tonight, so we've got the first smell of live football. I believe that is the, mine's gone blank, Hall of Fame game. Bills and somebody. Giants possibly. I have no idea. The mind is blank. I've got it written down somewhere. Giants, Bills, there we go. So I'm going to talk about the Hall of Fame class. Got a bit of info on the Hall of Fame, did a bit of research. It's one of them things where you think, It's the showpiece, the opening showpiece. Think of it as like the charity shield to the Premier League season and that. So found some info about that I'm going to share with you guys. I'm not only educating myself as we go, but hopefully you guys will learn a little something as well. And I'll give out the number in a minute. I just want to get this nonsense going. So if you're listening live, tweet me. Just let me know how it's going. I've had one message through from my very good friend at Huddle Magazine, Tom. He says the sound quality is good. And Tom, I appreciate the message, mate. So it's good to know we are all well. Right then, Hall of Fame stuff. I've got some... What else have I got? Yeah, I've got a feature that I'm going to be doing. Everyone's obsessed with power rankings, who's the best, all that sort of nonsense. So, me being me, not the most orthodox of people at times, I'll flip that on its head. And we're going to have... I couldn't think of a name for this feature. We're over the pond. I was thinking maybe Pond Scum. That's a bit harsh. Pond Life would mean there's a bit of life in them. So I've gone with the Not So Great 8. Yeah, I know, it's not the best, but that's the best I can work with. If you've got any better, let me know. So I'm going to list... obviously, as it sounds basically, every team that I think is going to finish the bottom of their respective division. We'll run through them and reasons why. That's going to change as we go. I'm probably going to run through that about every 3 or 4 weeks because, you know, there's injuries and stuff like that are going to affect that as we go, and teams have a rough patch. So I'm going to offer up some things there. I would imagine you're not going to be happy with the majority of those, but hey-ho. Ring in and let me know. And... that's a perfect segue. We're already segueing, which is also a good sign. The number for that is 0161 818 4593. That is 0161 818 4593. If for some bizarre reason you're listening outside the UK, I would imagine it's the +4 in front of that. Beyond that, you can also ring me on Skype. It's Teece Mister. That is TEECE Mister. If you can't spell Mister, you're in serious trouble. But yeah, Teece Mister on the Skype. Feel free. Fingers crossed when you ring, that should just pop up and we'll put you live on the air and have a little chinwag about whatever you want, basically. Talk anything. So right then, Hall of Fame as we go. Let's delve into this. A little bit of history on the Hall of Fame, as you guys hopefully know by now. The Hall of Fame opened in Canton, Ohio in 1963 on the 7th of September. Exactly. It's one of the rare Hall of Fames where officials are not inducted. They are in baseball, basketball and hockey, which I didn't know that. I didn't believe there was any officials that weren't in that. A little bit of history here. It's not something I've written myself. I'll be honest, I've stole this off the web, but you guys could probably find it. But why search the internet? I've done the hard work for you. Right then, Canton, Ohio was selected as the location for the Hall of Fame for 3 reasons. The first one being the NFL was founded in Canton 1920. Another fact that I didn't look up, to be fair. I'm lazy, just assume the NFL, it's there on the TV. People do go geeky on it and get way into the history, but there you go. At this time, it was known as the American Professional Football Association. Second, the now defunct Canton Bulldogs were a successful NFL team based in Canton during the first few years of the league. And finally, the community of Canton successfully lobbied the NFL to have the hall built. Groundbreaking was held on August the 11th, 1962, with the original building containing 2 rooms. It was 19,000 square feet. Excuse any paper flapping that you do here. I am a mess. The man cave is not designed for live radio, as you'll hear as we go through this. There'll be all sorts of rattlings and stuff going on. Anyway, moving forward, April 1970, ground was broken on the first of many expansions. Obviously, with more people on that going in, makes sense. Make it bigger, posher, grander, and all that sort of stuff. So basically, they spent on this first expansion $620,000. That was completed in May 71. The room size went up to 34,000 feet. Pro Shop was added within this expansion. And we move on through a variety of expansions, basically, up until what we have now. I'm just scanning my notes. Ill-prepared as ever. Yeah, so basically, 1993. the building remained largely unchanged, and then they announced another expansion. This cost in the region of $9.2 million, which added a fifth room. The square feet now is 82,000 feet. And flipping back to my original stat, it was 19,000 feet. So there's a little bit of info on the Hall of Fame. Each year there's a maximum of 7 people allowed into the Hall of Fame, with the minimum being, I think it's 3, if memory serves me correct. The voting process for this is very weird. Anyone can nominate a person as well to go in the Hall of Fame. So myself, you listening, anyone, you just simply write a letter to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You can write a letter or email, and then they select him. There's like a big list, and as you know, they cut it down, blah de blah de blah. Then there's a final ballot of 17 nominees. The selection committee then meets the day before the Super Bowl to elect the new class. A finalist must receive at least 80% support from the board, with at least 4, but no more than 7, as I said earlier, being elected annually. If less than 4 candidates get 80% of the votes, then the top 4 vote getters get in that year. Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, if more than 7 get 80%, then the top 7 vote getters will be inducted. And the induction ceremony is usually held on the first full weekend of August, which this weekend. All makes sense, and tying it in. On to your inductees. Right then. The Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 14. Derek Brooks, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 1995 to 08. 14 seasons, 224 games. He was a first-round pick by the Bucs, 28th player overall in the 95 draft. Never ever missed a game of his 14-year career. Started all but 3 games in his rookie season. Where's he going now? Led the Bucs for the first postseason appearance in 81. Named NFL's Defensive Player of the Year in 02, where he led the Tampa Bay Bucs with 173 tackles, a career high 5 interceptions. 3 of those he returned to the house. 15 passes deflected, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 sack. He was also a major contributor in the Bucs Super Bowl. Right, so that is Derek Brooks. So Bucs fans, I would imagine you had a good night on the back of that, and congratulations to Derek Brooks being teeth back in, enshrined into the Hall of Fame. Next one, a funny one, this one. Ray Guy, the punter. I'll be honest, there's a few guys I've had to look up here, you know, as it is. If you've listened via the bloody Army radio back in the day and all that, up until Sky Sports has sort of taken over, it's been a struggle to keep up with it. Can anyone remember the magazine? What was it, First Down? Used to have that every week from the news agents, and now, you know what it is with the internet. As grateful as I am for it, and I can do stuff like this, it's also a massive pain in the arse because things have died out that you used to love. That's a whole other show. Anyway, punter, Ray Guy, 6'3", 195 pound. He was 14 seasons in the league, 217 games, the first punter ever to be selected in the first round of the draft. Picked by the Raiders, 23rd overall in 73, led the league in punting, 74, 75, 77. He only ever had, this is an outstanding fact here, 1,049 punts. He had 3 blocked, and as a Jets fan, I think we had that 3 last season. So that is some doing, Ray Guy. I tip my hat to that. He was an All-Pro, 6 straight seasons, 73 through to 78. Played in 7 Pro Bowls. Member of the Raiders' Super Bowl victories, 3 Super Bowl victories. Yeah. He also, interesting fact here, doubled as the Raiders' emergency quarterback. Apparently he got quite a decent arm and was pretty accurate. Was born December 22nd, 1949. So that's a punter in the Hall of Fame. I do believe he's the first, and from what I can gather, I've been reading on the news, he's been going, it's been a campaign going for years and years trying to get this guy in. Pardon the pun. Right, moving on. Claude Humphrey was a defensive end for the Atlanta Falcons and Philadelphia Eagles. He was a Falcons pick, first round pick, 3rd overall in the 68 draft. He was Defensive Rookie of the Year in 63. Where is he now? He was credited with 122 career quarterback sacks, but obviously there was a point where the NFL didn't count. Oh, we have a phone call. I was not expecting that. Hello.
Hi, mate.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, pal. How are you?
I'm very well. Nervous start, as you probably heard there, but I'm sort of battling on through, mate. What can I do?
Yeah, good. It's all sounding good from what
Does
I'm
it sound
hearing,
good?
And, I'm just. It's just sounding good at this end, so I just thought I'd call in, say hi, and have the usual pleasantries.
Much appreciated, mate. You've put me at ease. I was a bit curious if people had ring in and give me a helping hand, as you can imagine.
Yeah, no problem, pal. I mean, a couple of reasons for ringing in. I just thought I'd ring in, obviously, and be social, as per usual, chat about the NFL and stuff. But also, I thought I'd help you out. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the editor of Huddle magazine, so I thought I'd pop in and give away some gifts for Mark to give away on the show. So our issue came out on Friday, our July issue, which covers up until the 30th of August, and I just thought we'd give 5 copies away of that to some of your listeners. So
that is
how does
awesome.
that sound?
That's fantastic, mate. I was not expecting that. I know you said you might bring in and that, but yeah. So this is like a groundbreaking first live show then. We're not only coming first UK live show spewing out nonsense, and I can't even remember what I was supposed to say, but we're now giving away gifts courtesy of Huddle magazine.
What I've done on our Twitter is I'm just sending a tweet out now.
Okay.
That is a promotional tweet for yourself. So what I'll say is to anyone who's listening, to everyone out there, get retweeting that to share the word about Zone Coverage Football Show, so that promotion goes out there, so that your profile heightens. And I'll basically pick 5 guys from random who retweet it in the course of the next week, and on Friday I'll get those names over to Mark, and he can announce the winners on next week's show, and obviously we'll do the pleasantries of getting those copies of the downloadable version to you in the meantime.
That's fantastic.
Appreciate
that,
good
mate.
for you, mate.
I've just retweeted it, so yeah, if you see that tweet via Huddle at Huddle Magazine, give the guys a follow. You should be subscribed anyway. It's a crime if you're not. I will do have that to say. Also, you're a Jags fan, so let's talk some Jags football, Tom.
Yeah, cool, no problem. Big Jags fan. I try not to let it reflect in the magazine for those that are listening that I'm just a Jags fan. We do try and balance things out quite significantly, although I've got to say, dealing with them as an organisation is an absolute pleasure. If they happen to be listening in, they're quite good to us. Bit of a feature on them in this month's magazine, dealing with 2 of our now second-year guys. Denard Robinson, ex-Michigan quarterback, turned wide receiver, now turned running back. So, I mean, that should be interesting, with Toby Gerhart coming in from Adrian Peterson's shadow. So
yeah, there's a lot of hype on Gerhart. I know fantasy football being big. A lot of people are saying go after Gerhart. He's going to get the bulk of the carries, because if Blake Bortles starts under centre, they're going to keep it sort of friendly for him. Maybe a little lean on the running game to just work him into games.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can see things from camp, and I mean, I'm hoping to speak to some of the Jags guys pretty soon in anticipation of the November International Series game. So, I mean, as far as I can see coming out of camp, Chad Henne is very much the starting quarterback at the moment, and Bortles is doing great. He's adapting well, but Henne's the starter at the moment. I mean, they just seem to think that Gerhart, coming out of Peterson's shadow, he's a little bit of an unknown quantity, but I mean, Gus Bradley, obviously, his experience up there at Seattle, he knows how to get the best out of players, and I think in Gerhart he's probably found a nice little gem that is just coming to fruition at the right time. I mean, when I spoke to Denard Robinson, one of the questions I actually asked him was, how do you think you're going to get any reps? And, he was quite upbeat to say that he thinks he's going to be involved and he just wants to play for the team. But, yeah, I think Gerhart's a good shout for a sneaky running back in your fantasy team, because there's not much competition for him in terms of someone come in and steal his job. So when they run the ball, it's going to have to be him that runs it, really, for most of the downs.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a depth chart now. Who's Jordan Todman? Is he still on there?
Yeah, I mean, Todman did all right last season when Mojo was injured. But, I mean, I wouldn't call him your go-to back. He's not going to come in, he's not going to challenge for that starting berth. I think Gerhart's going to shoulder most of that running burden. So, I think it's looking like a good season. I mean, I particularly like the addition of Marquise Lee. I mean, I know we were talking just before the draft, and you were saying that the Jets would have been happy to grab Lee.
Yeah,
so,
I would have taken.
I'm quite happy that we were able to grab him in the second round. I think that was a great addition, especially to give Bortles that weapon, that someone that he can develop his game with at the same pace. I think that really will work for Bortles as a quarterback. And the Justin Blackman situation isn't getting any better. So
yeah, you read my mind on that. That was my next question. What's your take on that? Because he got arrested a week or two ago.
Yeah, for again. Substance-related arrest. I mean, if you've seen his mugshot on the internet as well, he doesn't look particularly in shape at the moment either.
He's getting the munchies.
Well, yeah, he looks like he's had the supersized me munchies. he's put a little bit of weight on around the face, I think. So I think any Jags fans, I mean myself included, were hoping that perhaps this indefinite ban something could be done about it, and perhaps we could get the guy back. He's a difference maker when he's fit, healthy and playing football, but I think he's just sliding away from the game at the moment still. And I mean, Shad Khan's been great, the owner of the Jaguars, in saying that he'll stand by him and try and get him the help that he needs, but I think at this moment in time he needs to admit the problems that he's got before he can move on and deal with those issues and then come back to playing football. In that interim, I don't think as a team we can afford to be clinging on to the hope that player is going to come back. And I think Marquise Lee is a right direction move to basically I wouldn't say replace him, because I don't think you can replace a guy of that talent with somebody else, but he'll drop in, and I think he'll work out quite well, and I think he'll develop with Bortles, and however long Blackman takes to come back, if he ever does come back, then I think Lee will be a good replacement.
Yeah, another receiver you picked up that I was pretty high on as well was Allen Robinson from Penn State. Has he got a hamstring issue at the moment, I've read earlier?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's struggling a little bit, but it's one of them things. I mean, there are plenty of players that have gone into the draft where you look at them and they've been struggling a little bit. They've perhaps dropped a little bit out of the rounds. They've dropped down perhaps below where their stock suggested that they should be, and then they'll maybe take a year to develop, a year to come through. But if you can redshirt them and leave them that year, if you can afford that luxury, then fair enough. It's a good thing to do, but it's just one of them things. You've got to make these investments, and you've got to see if they play off. I think lower down the rounds, each team sort of takes those little gambles, don't they? And they can see the raw talent, and there may be issues. Sometimes it's worth taking that gamble on that raw talent to see if it pays off. And for all of those that we hear that do pay off, obviously there are plenty that don't. So,
yes.
You've got to take them gambles and got to see how things come. I mean, are you happy with the way the Jets went?
Yeah, that's not. I don't think I'd disclose that yet. Yeah, Jets fan here. So if you're into suffering and misery, I'm your guy for that. But yeah, I was happy. Calvin Pryor, from all I've heard about Pryor, he's a tough physical tackler, much needed addition in the secondary there, because our corners are it's the polite way of putting this, not so good. We got D. Milliner, who was bragging the other day that he's the best corner in the league, which is borderline hysterical. But yeah, overall I thought the Jets did a good job. We've added depth. I like the pickup of Jason Morrow, tight end, something we needed.
I think Jason Morrow, I think he'll be good. He'll be a good option for Geno Smith. I mean, he's not just your traditional wide tight end, is he? So no. I mean, I think you've got a good pick there. I actually like the pick of Amaro more than I like the pick of Pryor, if I'm honest.
Really?
I mean, I know that Calvin Pryor is basically Rex Ryan's wet dream, isn't he? In
yeah,
the way that he plays, he's everything that Rex Ryan wants.
Yeah,
But I mean, I just don't see. I think Clinton Dix was still on the board.
Yeah, I was high on Clinton Dix coming in just because I wanted to do that Nelson sound effect with the ha-ha.
I know you were after the Nelson sound effect.
I've mentioned that a few times, yeah. So
the way I look at it is I'm a big one when it comes to the draft for the mantra of the best available player at the time. And I know, when you look through it, a couple of teams did stick to that. Surprisingly so in some cases.
Yes.
There were teams, Dallas Cowboys, not naming anyone,
that's
I thought were going to go
fault.
absolutely crazy and not stick to the game plan. But, everybody, pretty much lives by that mantra. And I think with Clinton Dix still on the board, at that stage, I think Calvin Pryor, don't get me wrong, he's a decent enough pick, but I think I'd have liked to pick of Clinton Dix a lot more at that stage than Calvin Pryor. But I like the way they've gone with Jace Amaro, just because I think Gino needs those extra dimensions. And I know, there's still that competition going on for him with Michael Vick and so forth, but I think he needs that kind of outlet, and I think Jason Amaro is a good pickup in that respect, and it reminds me a lot of Aaron Hernandez. So I think that's a good selection, very good selection.
As long as he doesn't have a similar off the field incident, we'll all be good.
Well, this is it. But coming back to Justin Blackman, we can't put any bets on what might happen off the field.
No,
we can only judge what's going on the field. These guys, the NFL and the NFLPA certainly put plenty of things in place to try and keep these guys on the level off the field, but somehow they seem to circumvent a lot of them.
Yeah, they do have
on with their own thing.
Yeah, you've got the rookie symposium as well, which I know Steve on my other show, Jetpon Podcast, he says that should be made mandatory now. What was his name? Josh Gordon, who's been suspended, who's now appealing that. He was out the supplementary draft, and obviously he didn't go to the rookie symposium. But surely there's got to be something put in place now to, I don't know, I suppose we're going to get to a point where every player's going to have to be mothered maybe for the first year. You do hear some of them go and live with some of the older guys. I know on Hard Knocks last year, was it Tyler Eifert was shacked up with someone as well, and I think that needs to be done. Take them under the wing.
We're kind of getting to a point. Where, not to go away from proper football and go to the round English version, but we're sort of talking. Perhaps the NFL are about 20 years behind what Man United were doing with the likes of Giggs, Scholes and the young players there. The way Alex Ferguson made them guys avoid the media, tried to cuddle them a little bit, keep them on the level, not too many late nights out and so forth. And I think, the NFL's perhaps a little bit behind the times in they have this, you need to speak to a certain amount of media a certain amount of time throughout the season, and perhaps for the rookies that needs to be amended, and there needs to be some sort of case to be put forward that perhaps too much media exposure and too much exposure to the limelight is not too good for them at the age of 21.
Maybe cut that down and limit that as well, sort of ease them in.
For the likes of Marshawn Lynch and players like that are not too media friendly. You've got players that just hate going and seeing the media and hate the mandatory amount that the NFL wants them to go out and speak to the media. But those older pros, they've got to do it. They've got to be there. They've got to be in front of the camera. The media wants to talk to them, and that's that. But for the younger players, I suppose it's like a deer in headlight effect, and it's sort of, say you're the third, fourth, fifth pick. Your draft stock's shot up in maybe 2 weeks before the draft from not very far in the previous weeks. All of a sudden you probably think you're a superstar when in reality you're probably not, and it kind of goes to the head. One thing you can say for Johnny Manziel, he's used to the fame. You know what I mean?
He's definitely not shying away from anything, is he?
No, am I the only one who's sick of hearing about Johnny Manziel?
Yes, I was going to sort of put a ban on that sort of nonsense for a week or two anyway, at least.
Oh man, don't get me wrong. If there's any Browns fans listening, thinking of buying the magazine, there's a page dedicated to every NFL team in the magazine. We talk about Manziel in that page this month. Johnny Manziel's a good football player at collegiate level, but he's got a lot to prove as yet. And I'm not liking the fact that I'm reading the guy's name every single day at the moment as though, he's just won the Super Bowl. He gets more press coverage than Russell Wilson, man.
Yeah, it's frightening, really. Also, I feel that he gets overshadowed because I'm a big fan of Mike Pettin going over there now, and his defensive philosophy obviously comes from the Jets with these press corners. Under a lot of pressure, he's going to be dialing up some exotic blitzes, and I think the Browns are up for a good year. I do, based on that fact.
I think they're on for a good year.
Yeah, and plus it's about time, isn't it? To be fair, they've been suffering in misery for a long time. You hear a lot of people say the Browns fans aren't allowed anything nice. Let's give them something to shout about every once in a while.
You know what? I wish them the best of luck, and I hope they do well. But I hope that they do well, not because Johnny Manziel does well for him, but I mean, you've got to look at the first pick they made in the draft. They didn't go stupid and select Manziel. They selected Khalil Mack.
Yeah,
you know, and that shows you that. Excuse me. To all intents and purposes, they're going down the right road. Yeah. And where they picked Manziel up, I think obviously he dropped a lot lower than he thought he would, and a lot lower than most analysts thought he would. And to be fair to you, my girlfriend stayed up with me watching the NFL draft purely to see how far Manziel drops, because she was loving his little face while he was sat in the green room as he was getting more and more devastated, and she's about as interested in football as she is in watching paint dry. So you know, even someone like that was loving watching Manziel go through that drama. So you know, he certainly adds drama. He certainly draws people to the NFL that otherwise wouldn't be interested in the NFL. But I mean, you've got to appreciate that the Browns went through, they went through the motions and they didn't go stupid. They selected properly where they should, and then when Manziel was still available, they traded up and got him where they got him with good value. And I think, all in all, they did quite well in the draft. And I think, as a result, for that kind of sense and normality, they probably deserve a good season out of it. I mean, others weren't so sensible in some of their picks, but you know, it's a. I mean, what's Chip Kelly playing out at the Eagles? I mean, that absolutely bemuses me to take a player like Smith in the first round. You know, I think it's bizarre.
Chip's very different. He's sort of got his own sort of way. I'm a huge Oregon Ducks fan, and I like Chip Kelly, but I don't know. It's hard to figure him out. He's very. I suppose we're sort of stuck in the old school sort of thinking, aren't we? Where you look at it now with the quarterbacks, everyone's still old school pocket passes, and now you've got people like RG3, Manziel, and that coming out, and there's all this read option and all that. That's sort of progressing. So is Chip Kelly sort of like the head coach version of these new crop of quarterbacks with his new ideas and philosophies, maybe?
Yeah, I suppose potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, one thing that was I actually wrote the Eagles page in this month's edition, and one thing I speculated is that perhaps when they traded down with the Browns, that they didn't expect the player they wanted to come off the board between the 22nd pick that they held and the 26th pick that they traded down to. And I think that's possibly thrown things into...
Yeah, and it's sort of like, oh dear, panic mode.
Oh dear, where do we go from now? Oh, actually, we were going to pick up Marcus Smith in the second round. We were going to try and trade up and get Smith before Washington got Smith. So rather than trying to just go for the best player on the board, let's just take Smith. Let's stick with the plan. Let's get Marcus Smith. But I think they just picked him a little bit too high. I mean, whether anyone will even remember that in years to come, we'll see.
Very true.
As I say, I just wonder, is it a case of that they traded down and they didn't expect the player they really wanted to come off the board in those 3 picks behind them, and oops, he's come off the board. Right, what do we do now? Because I know they were scared. I think they were scared that Smith was going to come off the board to Washington in the second round. So I think they wanted to trade up in the second round and grab him in the second round before Washington took him off the board. So there was that element to it, I believe. And I think he's perhaps piped up and took him just a little bit early with that anticipation in mind. And I mean, when you add in Deshaun Jackson into that, it sort of fuddles the mind as to why you would allow a receiver like that to go off to Washington, yet you're prepared to pick a player in the first round to prevent Washington grabbing him. So
it's obviously clearly something going on that maybe a book down the line will explain all.
Well, this is what I was thinking. I'm sure at some point there'll be a Chip Kelly book. So
yeah, definitely.
The other team that I was interested in talking about was your favourite team down in Florida. How they're getting on?
Oh, the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Yes, I put them sort of a spoiler alert for the not so great 8 feature that I was going to run through. In the AFC East, I'd got the Dolphins down as last. No shocker there. Mainly because I feel just at what happened last year with what's his name now? It escapes me. Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin. What went on there and the locker room sort of nonsense, and I just feel that they didn't fully clean house for me. Joe Philbin somehow kept his job. Jeff Ireland was made the sacrificial lamb. I would have cleaned it out, started again. I worry that they've got no running game. Was it Tannehill was sacked? What was it? Fifth, an NFL league high of 58 times, 8 more than anyone else. Also, another one of my favourite players coming out of last year's draft, Dion Jordan. I was very, very high on him. He was disappointing last year. There was a lot of criticism that he wasn't in shape. He then turns up for camp visibly bigger than ever before, and then tests positive for performance-enhancing drugs. I mean, putting 2 and 2 together, it doesn't. It's allegedly, and I'm not saying that he definitely used them bulk up, but if you sort of read between the lines and outside of looking in, it's a bit iffy, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't all stack up, does it?
Yeah.
It does seem a bit dodgy. And I mean, well, as I say, when you look at Miami, I mean, they're not exactly in the easiest division to play in, are they? And I mean, the Bills are getting there.
The Bills are a very, very good team. They're up and coming. The loss of Kiko Alonso for them, I'm a huge fan of his. That's a massive blow.
I'm a big fan of EJ Manuel if he can stay fit. I think he's great, and I mean Sammy Watkins.
There's some highlight videos of him in camp and one-handed catches and all sorts, and it's like wow. But it's hard with camp and stuff, trying to keep yourself grounded and not get carried away, because
this is it. You've got to remember that they're playing against their teammates. I mean, I think they've only just put pads on as well, so that adds a different dimension. So. There's a lot of different dimensions to it, but I mean, I think you look at the additions that the Bills have made, and I mean that AFC South is AFC East. Sorry, it is AFC South. I'm thinking about the Jaguars again. That AFC East is looking like a good, challenging division, and New England, they're not going to have it all their own way, I don't think. I don't think that's entirely a bad thing as well.
No, I say their dominance, I can't remember now. I sort of like try and block it out as it's ridiculous amount of times they've won the division on the bounce now. It is. And I mean,
to be honest, I don't think they've done particularly bad in the draft, but they've not, set the world alight. But obviously the world doesn't revolve around the draft. You've still got the existing players there that have achieved fairly well last year. But I mean, Tom Brady carried them a lot last year, and they put a lot on Gronkowski as well. So I mean, if either of those two guys are not up to the standard, they're not particularly doing well, or one of them gets injured, then it all goes awry for them. So it's a good competitive division. It'll be interesting to watch and see how things play out. Yeah. And I mean, I think you can say the same of the NFC West as well. I think you look at what the Rams are doing, quietly sneaking up just like the Bills. The Cardinals really deserved to be in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, the Cardinals were exceptional last year. They got a good team. I like what the Cards have been doing. The Rams, for me, it all falls on Sam Bradford.
Yeah,
that is it. I mean, who's the backup quarterback now? And
off the top of my head, I don't even know, to be honest with you.
I'm trying to think now. Was it Callan Clemens? Was he there last year? Is that
I think if I remember correctly, they have re-signed Clemens. I mean, Clemens did a decent enough job when Bradford was out, but would you want him to be a long-term quarterback going through a season?
Yeah, it's not ideal for me. Though that defense is phenomenal. I've got Robert Quinn down already this year for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's an exceptional talent. The roster is good, but it's how far the quarterback can carry him, really. I think that's what it boils down to for the majority of the teams. That you're sort of on the fence.
It's such an important position, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we can tell you that as Jags fans. Like, having a quarterback who's not capable of achieving much, it limits you so much. You can have the best defense in the world pulling teams off, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. If you can't put points on the board, eventually that defense is going to get tired.
Yeah.
And the other team, even if it's field goals, are going to start putting points on the board, and you're just going to fall behind, further and further behind. And I think that's been the problem with the Jaguars, particularly in seasons gone by, that we've just not been able to keep up. And when we have sort of kept up, eventually, as I say, the defence has just been worn away, or their defence has just sort of caught up with us into the fourth quarter. I mean, see Denver for last season. We gave them a good run for their money, but everyone was talking a washout. It was going to be 50.
Oh yeah,
16
there was ridiculous bets going on and all sorts, weren't there, on that front?
So we can compete when the quarterback can step up and do something, but it's that consistency that you need from the quarterback. Like you say, it's all well and good competing for 3 quarters, but you can't compete for 3 quarters. Sometimes you need to compete for 5. You know what I mean? And often in the playoffs, you need to compete for 5. So it's having that consistency, and I think, Bradford for me doesn't necessarily offer that consistency all the time, and his backup certainly doesn't. I mean, Arizona, like we say, building a nice little team up there. San Francisco are going about doing what they do, and whether Seattle will be able to repeat, I personally don't think so.
No, but it's a big ask. It says.
It is.
I'm going to have to be a bit of a pain here, Tom. We are sort of limited. Me and you, we did say this had happened. Once we get going, we will not be able to stop. I'm closing in on the last 3 minutes of the show, and I just don't want it randomly cut off. And
yeah, no problem, pal.
We'll
have
to continue
get
this.
Guys
but
to keep retweeting that tweet, and I'll catch you some other time.
Yeah, so that's Huddle at Huddle Magazine. Keep retweeting that, Tom. It's a pleasure, mate. I feel bad for cutting you off, but I don't want to just fall off air without saying a few more words on that. And I really appreciate the call and the continued support, mate. It's
no problem.
It means
at
a lot.
all,
Thank you very much.
A great idea, and like you say, I'll speak to you later on.
Okay then, Tom. Thanks very much, mate. Take
Cheerio.
care, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, there we go. The first call of the new show, and that has ate up the majority of the show. What I probably didn't state at the top is we are sort of limited to a 45-minute broadcast before we randomly fall off air. I was breezing through the Hall of Fame class. I did get to Claude Humphrey. I'll just finish that off briefly. Walter Jones also going into the Hall of Fame, Seahawks player. Who else do we have here? Andre Reed, wide receiver. Michael Strahan, probably the most familiar name with us fans that have got into it within the last 10, 15 years. Who else? Aeneas Williams, safety for the Arizona Cardinals as well. Yeah, you'll all know Aeneas Williams, cornerback / safety. Unfortunately, I sort of cutting off shortly there. I wasn't expecting to talk to Tom for so long, but as he announced on the show, the free copy of Huddle Magazine, just retweet the tweet. I've actually put it out on the feed at Zone Coverage FS. If you guys want to get in touch with the show, do so via Twitter, Facebook page. You know where it is. Go social media, search Zone Coverage Football Show. Also the website, www.zonecoveragefootballshow.com. And then finally, if you want email, it's no, it's not www. That'll be for the website. The email is what now? Zone Coverage Football Show at mail.com. And please make a note of the number for the next time you guys want to call in. It's 0161 818 4593. And apologies for not getting through what I said I would, but that happily rolls on to the next show, and it's ideal for me. You guys keep ringing in, keep going, and as you've just heard, I can talk football forever. Tom's a good guy. Go give him a follow, and I appreciate everyone's support over the past few weeks. I'm just scrambling for the last 26 seconds when I play the out music, so thank you all for tuning in, for all your kind words, and remember guys, we're back this time next week, 4:30 PM, so hustle, hit, and never quit.
Thank you for tuning into today's show. Unable to listen live? We've got that covered. Simply search the Zone Coverage Football Show in either iTunes or Stitcher Radio. And don't forget to subscribe. All our shows and details on how to call into the show can be found on the website www.zonecoveragefootballshow.com.